Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and welcome to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the Snob OS Show. We definitely want to take a minute to thank you for tuning in and supporting the show. If you want a little bit of extra content, exclusive content to be able to watch the show live, you can become one of our Patreon supporters by going over to patreon.com/snobawestcast. Also, if we have any non-Apple users listening, you can now listen to Apple Podcasts by going to podcast.apple.com. You don't have to have an Apple device anymore to get in on all of the Apple content podcast goodness. So definitely keep that in mind. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We are going to kick it off with the biggest news around these Apple streets, and that is on Monday. Apple finally dropped the date for the latest Apple event, which is going to happen on September 9th. And the theme of this event is it's Glowtime. And, they do their little graphic where it kind of does a little something. And to me, it's pretty obvious that it's kind of giving like a souped up effect of the Siri kind of like little light show you get when you ask it a question, basically inferring that it is for Apple Intelligence. That's my take. Of course, we'll get a flagship the iPhone, so likely the iPhone 16 is probably what it's going to be called. That's probably going to that's typically what the fall event is. But yeah, September 9th, it's going to have an in-person component at Apple Park, as well as the virtual component for those of us who don't live out in Cupertino. Again, it's going to kick off at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So that for those of us on the East Coast, that will be 1 p.m. Now, I wanted to obviously cover this because we had to, but as you can imagine, a lot of the Apple content on the internet, on most of the news sites, as people giving their guesses or people saying it's going to be this, it's going to be that. Again, we never know until the event happens. So instead of, I guess, guessing or looking at the rumors of what might be announced, what are you hoping to see at this event?
Was hoping to see that Apple Intelligence, but according to the rumors, like you mentioned, that may not be available at the time iOS 18 launches. Now, they're probably going to talk about it. Maybe I'm looking forward to them giving us some more insight on Apple Intelligence during the event, even though we won't actually be able to download it, shortly thereafter. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely looking forward to get more insight on Apple Intelligence, how it works, how it integrates with all the other services, any other apps, whatever the case may be. How well does Apple Intelligence know me? That's,
Mm-hmm.
looking for them to shine a little bit more light on that. As far as the hardware, I'm going to keep saying this until I'm blue in the face. I definitely want the reverse charging,
Mm-hmm.
which again, I'm just throwing it out there, even though I don't think it's going to work. And what I mean by that is be able to flip my phone on its face, have it face down, and be able to put my AirPods case on my phone
On the
to
mm-hmm.
actually charge it up. Maybe the Apple Watch as well, but that's a tall thing to ask. But at the very least, to be able to charge up my AirPods by putting them in the
AirPods.
bag. Now I can charge up my AirPods by manually plugging it in, but it'd be nice to
Mm-hmm.
be able to just set it on there while my phone is face down and
Yeah.
get a quick little charge. So outside of that, um, I can't think of anything that I'm looking forward to. I suppose the capture button for controlling the camera app. Supposedly, there's another button in addition to the action button that you can trigger certain things. In addition to that button, there's going to be a capture button that they say is going to be on all the phones.
Mhm.
So, that's a new thing that, be interesting, but I ain't necessarily like, ooh, you know what I'm looking for? A capture button when you can use the volume, I think it's the volume down button. You can program your phone to where you can use the volume up button or volume down button as a
Mhm.
capture button. So it's like, I mean, I guess. But yeah, I guess the most thing is the Apple Intelligence, how people are gonna take that, how does that compete against, all the other current, AI products out there. So that would be the main thing.
Yeah, for me, I am currently my daily driver is 14 Pro Max. 14 Pro, I'm sorry. Um so it's definitely time for an upgrade for me. So I definitely likely get the 16. I'm looking forward to Apple Intelligence as well. But I think I'm really hoping that we see some new AirPods. I've kind of given up hope on the AirPod Max. I think they've done all they're going to do with AirPod Max. I don't think nothing else is coming out of that, especially since, Beats falls under the Apple umbrella as well. But I was at least hoping to maybe get at least see some new AirPods and see how that'll work with Apple Intelligence and, what use cases we can do with that, because I'm presuming the hardware that's currently in the AirPods Pros that I currently have likely doesn't have the chip that can sustain the type of activity to get the full use of Apple Intelligence. So I'm hoping maybe they drop some new AirPods that have that capability, because I'm trying to remember. I think the current watch OS the we're on series 9, I
There
think.
were 10.
I They're 10.
Hmm.
Um I don't know. I'm trying to remember if when they came out, they I know that it got a new chip, but I don't know if that chip is going to be compatible with Apple Intelligence. I think it might be, since the iPhone 15 will be compatible with Apple
I
Intelligence.
think
So
it's just the
I'm not
phone.
sure.
I think it's just the phone.
It's just the phone.
Yeah. Now you'll maybe be able to use the AirPods to do the call and response. But as far as the
Mhm.
processing power, that's just on
Mhm.
the iPhone. And I think
Okay.
just on the Pro and the Pro Max. No,
Gotcha.
yeah, no, and maybe Mac, the MacBook. I don't know about the
Mhm.
iPad. Maybe the iPad Pro with that M1 or M4. Does the iPad Pro
Mhm.
has an M4? Yeah, the M4
Yeah.
chip. I'm pretty sure that'll get the Apple Intelligence as well. But no watch, and then no other devices versus the iPad Pro, iPhone Pro, and then an M, at least an M3 or 4, which, maybe even our MacBook Pros may not even be able to
Be com
handle Apple
Process it.
Intelligence.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, if I remember, one of the things with the new Apple Watch that I liked was that it was bringing some of the features from the um the Vision Pro, and I knew that the chip could handle, that level of it. So I wasn't sure if any of the features from that would be compatible, or how any type of integration or a cross function, between those two would work. So I guess we'll see all of that, if there's anything to tell, at the It's Glow Time event. Um, I know that they're already beta. I think we're up to beta 8 on 8 on what 18.18.1. I think we're already up to like beta 8, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a new one released just this week. So I think the expectation is that after the new iPhone ship, that like shortly thereafter, the 18.1 that has the Apple Intelligence should be ready to go. So we'll see, at the event, what the timeline is on when the big guns of this whole thing, which is the Apple Intelligence. Because the hardware, sure, it's probably, to me, it'll probably be incrementally better, but I'd be surprised if it was like overwhelmingly different. And that, Apple Intelligence is like the cornerstone, the biggest, you know, thing that everybody kind of wants to see and to use. So it'll be interesting to see the timelines, what's actually included, when it'll actually be included, and how it's going to work. So I'm really interested to see, how that all plays out.
So the Apple Intelligence is compatible with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, iPhone 15 Pro, iPad Pro M1 and later. So if you've got an iPad Pro with an M1, an iPad Air with an M1, a MacBook Air with an M1, a MacBook Pro with an M1, iMac, Mac Mini, Mac Studio, and Mac Pro with the M1 or later. So all Macs with an M1 has got it. All iPads with an M1 has got it. And then all the iPhone Pros. So 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max. And I'm assuming the 16 Pro and the 16
16.
Pro
Yeah.
Max when they come out next month.
Gotcha. So yeah, so that answers that watch question. There's not going to be
Nope.
any of that built in to be used. So of course we will be talking about the event and seeing kind of what the news is, because we have 2 weeks before this event, which is surprising. They normally, give you a week out, but now it's like 2 weeks out. So that's interesting. So I guess we'll see
Um,
when the time comes.
Another thing I'm interested in seeing, again, this is a rumor, but the
Mm-hmm.
camera array on the back of the iPhones has always been this square. The rumors
Mm-hmm.
are the camera array is just going to be vertical. So it's going to be
Oh,
two straight down if it's an iPhone 16, and then the 16 Pro Max, maybe there'll be three
mm,
cameras coming down on the one side. I'm interested to
interesting.
see how that's going to look. I'm not saying I'm gonna like it, but I'm interested to
Yeah.
see nonetheless what that looks like on the back, especially with the phones with the big thick camera lenses.
Right. And it used to be that way, right? And it was like in an oval shape. The cameras were like elongated in like an oval shape, like bezel.
Yeah, but
So,
it was even the oval shape was vertical across the top. This is going to be horizontal down the side.
so there weren't any that was horizontal down the side before?
Not to my knowledge, they were all
Oh, okay.
across the top.
Oh, okay. Huh. Well, I guess that's something to look forward to. I'm interesting to see how that's going to look as well. It may be fine, but it's definitely going to be like a what's the word I'm looking for? An adjustment, because we've been used to like this square type of bezel. So it's going to be interesting to see if they do go with this vertical type deal. How people are going to, whether they're going to warm to it, adjust to it, or be like, ew, I hate it. So again, more conversation that people get to squabble about when this thing is finally released. Next up, Apple has come up with a new tool that allows you to transfer your playlist out of Apple Music into other streaming devices. But it's just one, YouTube Music, and no Spotify.
Right.
I think Apple is probably still a little salty with Spotify. So they're like, you know what? We're not going to make anything easy for you. I know one thing, like in particular, from the DNC convention, when they did like the songs for each state, when they did the roll call,
Hmm.
there was a Spotify playlist. There was not an Apple Music playlist, which was annoying
When you
because
say there was
I
a
don't.
Spotify playlist, what do you mean? They were playing the music from a how
Yeah,
could
they built a playlist of the songs that were in the roll call.
Spotify did?
Spotify did,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay. You made it sound like the DNC was using Spotify to queue up
Oh,
the
mm-mm.
music.
Mm-mm. No, 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 no. So after it was over, everybody was like, "Oh my god, where can I get this playlist?
Got it.
This is great. This is great." And then here comes Spotify, and I was like, "Well, maybe I have to go and get the list and create my own
Mhm.
playlist in Apple Music."
I'm
But
surprised Apple wouldn't do that. It's free, and
yeah,
I'm pretty sure they already got the music. It would have made sense to, well, maybe, well, I mean,
yeah, because all the music had to be licensed for the DNC to use it.
right,
So I'm
right.
pretty sure Apple has it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Mm. In any event, so you can now take your playlist from Apple Music and port it on over in to Apple Music. It's a new transfer tool. We'll put the link in the show notes because there are two different ways that you can do this. And they have these documents that kind of give you the step by step, straightforward. So basically it's saying again simple steps to move it from Apple Music over into YouTube Music, but the playlists are, I'm reading this article from 95 Mac, playlists are the only data type currently supported for transfers, so it's only playlists, so it's not like other
you're
music,
not
it's
transferring your actual
the
library.
actual, right, you're just transferring the playlist. And again, trying to transfer out your entire music library or listening history or any of your preference or songs that you favorited or whatever, is going to take a little more time and be a little more complicated. So there, it's none of that. It's just strictly the playlist, which a lot of people say, I wish I could take my playlist from here, or I was at this party and they had a great playlist. I wish I could, easily transport it or whatever. So Apple has made this tool available that allows you to make this uh, transfer. So um, it's one of those things where it's more of the different ecosystems kind of, I guess, working together to make it a little bit easier for their customers. And this tool is starting with YouTube Music. I suspect it may add more going down the line, but we know, as we talked about before, Apple is kind of frenemies with Google. So you just never know. And I honestly, I don't think they'll ever make this convenient for Spotify, because they got long time beef. But if you're an Apple Music user and a YouTube Music user, you can now easily port that playlist out over into YouTube Music.
All right.
So do with that if you will, and a little something to make your life a little bit easier. Next up in the lowdown, um, Apple Cash users. Starting in October, there is a new rule that you are going to have to show your ID if you're using Apple Cash. So basically, you will have to submit your ID to Apple directly for verification. And this is part of a new regulatory requirement. I suspect this probably has something to do with the EU, and they're probably just going ahead and doing it across the board. But don't worry, Apple is going to send out emails to all users, kind of giving you a heads up when this is coming, what the terms and conditions are, those changes are, and how to, I guess, make this process a little bit smoother for people as they have to adjust to now having to to show this verification. And it's not for any amount. I mean, for all amounts, it's for any amount more than $500 that you will have to do this verification.
But it's
And
not
it's total spend, not per transaction.
right. So if you plan on sending $500 up to $500 and more at any time in the future. So if you send $1 a day, as soon as
Mhm.
you hit that $500 cap, they're going to ask for your ID. You're going to need
Right.
ID verification to do anything past that. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm. I was looking through the article. I found this on iMore, and I was like, um, I was interested to see kind of where this came from or what spurred this. I haven't seen anything that specifies what type of regulatory rules or changes that force this, but it kind of, gives me a little bit of the thought process back when what was it, Cash App. After you pass a certain amount, then they start taking taxes out. They're not doing, of course, any taxes on sitting in Apple Cash, but they are requiring you to show ID. So I'd be very interested to see like how what brought this on uh that you have to, I guess,
I don't know.
verify your identity
Maybe theft
for
deterrence,
this.
scamming is on the rise. There's stories. I think we talked about a story a couple months ago to where this lady got her money stolen from her at Target because the dudes quickly
Mm,
tapped their phone together. So they're like, all
mhm,
right, well, how we'll fix that is we'll ask for IDs to where we can actually, at the very least, I'm assuming, be able to trace back to the actual person that was a part of that transaction, whether it be the sender or the recipient.
mhm. That makes sense. And I'm looking through to see if they will reject. I would assume if you don't show the identity, I mean, verify your identity, that they will reject
Mhm.
any of the transfers. Um, so I guess that could be that could be a reason. That could be their answer to that girl's um, issue,
Mhm.
because she was like, someone should have to do something, and
Mhm.
I'm like, but it was on you. You clicked the button
Mhm.
to send it. So you should have been paying a little more attention. But again, this change will actually come in on October 4th. So you got a couple months. Well, actually not a couple months. You have about a month uh to to prepare for this change. And again, like I said at the top of the story, Apple will be sending out notifications about the new process and basically prepping you to be able to use this, to give you the heads up to say, all right, this, you're inching towards your $500. So after you hit that, you're going to have to show that ID. So just a little FYI to be mindful of that is definitely coming down the pipeline. That did you have anything else uh
The
for the
lowdown?
lowdown?
Nope.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so we are going to head on over into second string where we talk all other tech. Um, Microsoft's recall was announced at their worldwide conference. It was widely lambasted, and it didn't roll out as anticipated. But now they're bringing it back. They said, we heard you. You said it was controversial. You didn't like it. You didn't want snapshots of all of your screens and all of your things stored and used. That people could get transcripts, AI, whatever. Um, it's we heard you, and we heard that you say that you had a problem with that. So um, for a little recap, as I said, the Windows Recall is a service that runs in the background on compatible PCs, which I think were only the new Copilot PCs. And it again continues to take screenshots of the user's activity, scanning those screenshots with OCR, which is optical character recognition. I've worked with that before, and it is a pain. And basically saving all those the text and the screenshots into basically making a giant database that you could query to find information. This was originally uh, uh, explained as a way to help you easier find your content, especially if you're in a meeting. You could query the meeting and find things easily. But people had a lot of questions and concerns, as did I, with this whole process. So this is, I think, this is supposed to, yep, it was supposed to launch back in July with the Copilot Plus PC. But again, it was paused. So some of the changes. that Microsoft has said they'll make is that the database will be encrypted when it's not active. It'll require authentication and periodical re-authentication with Windows Hello. I don't even know what Windows Hello is.
It's like the FaceTime. It's not Face. It's Face ID basically. You
Oh,
can log. You
okay.
can log into a Windows with your face.
Oh, okay. Sure. Great. And you'll have to the authentication and the reauthentication will be with that Windows Hello. It'll be turned off by default, as per previously it was going to be default turned on. They are addressing some of the security concerns that people brought up. The changes that they've listed that they've made, do you think it's enough that people will be comfortable using this feature?
Quite possibly. The question is the feature popular enough that people will actually like and want to use in the first place? Right.
Mhm.
That is the question I want to know. Do people want their computer at any moment in time with the ability to recall anything they've been doing since they've been using the computer? I mean, I guess it makes sense for, like, if you are typing up an email and you want to recall, you want to do a search on the, email subject or whatever the case may be, but you can kind of already do that by
Right. I was like, you
searching,
go to Windows
you
and
like,
Outlook and search.
right, search in Outlook, you can put up, you can, for a Windows machine, there's a search button on the actual keyboard where you type that in, and then you type in your little search in the little box in the corner, and it'll pull up all
Right.
these results. And it's like, all right, well, how is recall better than that? That is my question, not necessarily for me, not
Right.
necessarily the security, which I understand the security concerns. But to answer your
Mhm.
question, the additional layers of data protection, the turned off by default, the proof of presence with the Hello. Not only does
Mhm.
Microsoft Hello allow you to unlock your computer, it's kind of
Mhm.
checking to see if you're actually there. And if you're not there,
Mm.
after a certain amount of time, it's going to turn off this
It
recall
turns
thing.
it
It
off.
needs it needs to be
Gotcha.
you need to be in front of your computer in order for it to keep doing these snapshots. So to answer your question is, that's enough for me. But the question is,
Mhm.
do I really care?
Do you wanna use it? Yeah, it's one of those things where I think there are other ways that you can, I guess, search for things on your computer. I don't think you necessarily need it all to be basically translated into OCR and making it like a queryable database. I don't I don't know if I see a use in that. I don't know. It's interesting. Of course, I'm not a heavy PC user outside of, if I'm in a corporate environment and that's the OS that they use, and of course I'm going to use that, but on the personal level, I don't think so.
Well, I see the use. I guess my question is, how is this better than how I normally do it? You know,
Right.
is it faster? Can I just, say, "Hey, recall, show me my last email that I sent 2 days ago." Is it that easy as far as
Mhm.
just talking to it? Or do I
Mhm.
have to enter in a search query? If I have to enter in a search query, that's no different than what I've been doing, what I've done in the past, unless it's head over heels that much intuitive. Now
Mhm.
you've got a ball game. But if it ain't that intuitive and it's just another way, a different way, but not a better way to search on your Windows machine, I don't know if it's worth the effort.
Yeah, and based on this article, it says that it basically it's saving the OCR text, which is what the screenshots are images. So they're taking the characters from those screenshots and they are putting it says the
In a
screenshots
database.
to a giant
Mhm,
searchable database on your PC.
mhm.
And Microsoft saying the goal is to help users retrace their steps and dig up information about anything they had used their PC to find or do in the past. But I'm like, can't you already do that with the current search features?
Well, it may just be, I mean, maybe the difference is,
Maybe it's a souped up version, I guess.
well, I was thinking maybe the difference is when I do a regular search on a Windows machine without this recall,
Mhm.
I have to be more specific about what I'm searching for
Mhm.
versus this Windows recall. I don't have to be as specific because I'm not.
Maybe if you just put like a date.
Right. Well, maybe I'm thinking like if it requires me to be in front of my computer,
Mhm.
I'm typically going to be searching for or trying to recall things that I was doing during that session. And if all I got to do is start typing in some words or start or if it's voice activated, however it works, I start
Mhm.
talking, show me the email that I sent 5 minutes ago. I don't know
Mhm.
if I can search that by the
Mhm.
traditional method versus me just saying or me entering, show me the email I sent 5 minutes ago. To me,
Yeah.
that would be more of a benefit than having to open up Outlook and then who did I send that email to or what did I say? And you got to type in some of that text to see if Outlook will catch it. And word on the street, Outlook is not a very good search functionality is not very hot in Outlook. So maybe this Windows recall, again, speculating because I'm not a Windows user. I'm speculating
Mhm.
with this Windows recall. I can just say, you know, show me that website I logged into, 2 hours ago, and it'll
Mhm.
pull up a list or whatever. If
Yeah.
I've only been to one, it'll show me that one result or, you know, uh, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
show me that email or whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
it'll, since it's stored that stuff, it'll quickly be able to recall that without me having to get very, very, very specific, which is what you got to do
Yeah.
on currently on Windows machines.
Yeah, and possibly if you say accidentally close your browser tabs and it was something, it was like, what website was I on that did XYZ?
Hmm.
And it maybe it'll pop that back up. So this originally was supposed to launch back in July with the Copilot Plus PC. So now, according to the insiders, it's going to start rolling out in October. So in a about a month or so, um, we should be seeing this feature rollout. It'll be interesting to see how this is handled corporately. I think there will likely be some. You're in device management, so I would assume there will likely be some rules that the administrators will put in
They're turning that
place.
off. They're just turning it
Oh,
off.
completely
They're
off,
just gonna turn it off or disable
and not
or disable.
disable it,
Yeah, not
disable it because it's going to come turned off
uh-huh.
now
And they're gonna
because of forwards.
set it up to where you can't even go turn it on. It's gonna be grayed out.
Mm,
They don't even want to be bothered. Don't want to be bothered with
yeah,
it.
it sounds like such a hassle on the corporate level.
Mhm.
Maybe on your personal PC, you know, it'll be fine. But on the corporate level, especially at these gigantic companies, because a lot of people use PCs as their primary machine because they're not very, very expensive. But again, this is the Copilot Plus. So this will be kind of like a fancier Windows machine. So, and it's interesting because I think this Copilot Plus is likely geared, this Copilot Plus PC is likely geared towards developers, software engineers, data scientists, you know, those folks who kind of use Copilot like that. So I could very much see, you know, you don't want your proprietary code, snapshots of it, and the code being stored in some database that you can query. Especially we've seen a lot of the issues with security and these companies stuff kind of getting snatched up real quick. So yeah, I could see maybe people using some of this personal machine, but I could definitely see it being a hassle at the corporate level. All right, that is going to wrap up second string. We're gonna head into for the culture, where we talk all other things outside of, I guess, directly tech. It's kind of things that we kind of care about socially, things that we see on the internets or things that are going on around the world. So I will say this particular article, this all kind of blew up on this past Friday, but I want to bring it up for a specific reason for you, Terrance, because I definitely wanted to get your insight on this. So on last Friday, Cam Newton who Georgia native, former Auburn star, former Carolina Panther star, a big NFL star, who I think he had issues with having to take the COVID um, vaccine, so he wasn't able to play on any team. Nobody picked him up because he didn't want to get the COVID shot. He is heavily into content creation, and one on his podcast, which can be entertaining at times. Um, he has it's called Funky Friday,
Hmm.
and this conversation he was having with Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, who is a life coach type of thing. And the controversy around it is Cam Newton has 8 children with 3 different women. And so during this conversation, he was like, you know, I'll read the quote, a lot of people see my situation and think I'm not high functioning. I just want God to bring more children because my point is this: my desire to get married is lower than my fear of divorce. And basically, the life coach was saying, you're selfish because you're creating all of these broken families. And so the broken families line got a lot of people talking on social media. I think you could tell that Cam was very uncomfortable because this lady said that she would not date a man with children. And I think he got offended because, he's, one of the, what do they call them? High value men. I think he sees himself in that vein. And she was basically saying, it's hard to be able to be a present parent when you basically have 3 different households. You have 5 kids with one woman, 2 kids with another one, and one with your your current girlfriend, who you say you want to have more children, but not necessarily with the current girlfriend that you're with. And I think their kid is like a baby, so like maybe 1 or 2. And his whole thing around this is that he's afraid of divorce, and basically he sees having children as less of a commitment um, than getting married. And she basically called BS on his whole kind of shtick, and he was kind of saying it, with it, what he was saying was so insightful and so smart. And she basically was like, no, and broke it down, like, this is why you're basically wrong, and this is, kind of the environment that you're creating for these children and these mothers. I know you have 3 kids as well. You have 3 kids. You've been married for a long time, and I just wanted to get your take on this whole concept of children being, um, I guess, less of a commitment than marriage. And again, this is coming from Cam Newton. Grew up in a middle class, upper middle class, 2-parent home. His dad was a pastor. He didn't come from a background that wouldn't show him, what marriage is like, what family is like, those types of things. So I definitely wanted to get your perspective on this whole type of conversation.
Well, there's a couple of things going on. Um, Cam Newton's got money, and in a lot of cases, men or women, but we're talking about men, so we'll talk about men. In a lot of cases, with men with a lot of money, that trumps any other possible issues. In Cam Newton's case, the fact that he has money, in his eyes, trumps the inability to be present as much as a 2-parent household could, right? Me and my wife, we partner, we divvy up the responsibilities. When she can't make something, I'm there. When I can't make something, she's there. And in a lot of cases, we both try to be there at the same time, if for nothing else, just to show folks that these kids are growing up and have the love and support of two
To
parents,
have a support
adults
system.
in the
Yeah.
household, right? That's for us, regular. I call myself a regular person. With
Mhm.
a lot of rich folks, men and women, money tends to trump that in their eyes.
Mhm.
The issue with that is when the kids grow up, money isn't the thing that they say, "Oh, well, my dad wasn't there, but he gave me a Rolls Royce, so who cares?" Right?
Mhm.
Most kids growing up is like, "Dang, if you could have only came to my that
Mhm.
one thing or that important thing to the kid that the
Mhm.
parent missed, that tends to reverberate more so than all of the, influence via money, right? You
Mhm.
can pay for a kid's college tuition. You can pay for them to get a car. You can pay for high school 16-year-old birthday parties. You can pay for weddings, but they're not going to forget that thing that was important to them that you missed. So Cam
Mhm.
Newton, by having all of these different kids, is setting himself up for that conversation. It may not be right now, but we'll have to see how the kids grow up, because if the most
Mhm.
important thing is the kids, you want to do what's best for the kids. And time has shown, as kids get older, they remember those things. So
Mhm.
Cam has to ask himself, all right, is this about me wanting more kids and not being in a traditional two parent household? Is that what's important to you? Or is it what's important to the kids? And like I said, if the kids are saying the time is equally, if not as more important than the money, then you got to figure out how to get that time. And I can't see how Cam Newton, even though he mentions, I don't think the story mentions this, he says, the kids live with me. I don't know what
Hmm.
that means. My assumption is that they are co-parents, to where maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're with the mom. Thursday, Friday,
Mhm.
Saturday, Sunday, they're with Cam, or reverse,
Mhm.
right? I can see that being the case when he says they live with me. It's not a you think of most relationships that have broken up and their kids are involved.
Mhm.
Typically, one parent has the majority of the custody, and then the other parent has them on weekends or has them in summer
Visitations. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
visitation, right? I don't get the impression that's the case. Kudos to him for being in those relationships to where he says, or according to him, the kids live with me equally as much as the mothers. But
Mhm.
again, that goes back to my thing. It's like, all right, is this about you? What's more
Mhm.
important? Is it you and your issues with marriage, or is it the kids and their remembrance of you in your absence, right?
Right.
So that be the one thing that I would sit on. I mean, I don't necessarily just automatically say that you are creating broken homes by
Mhm.
having children and not being a two-parent household. I'm not going to go that far, because
Mhm.
there are a lot of women who are getting up in age and they say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I want to have a child. I haven't found my partner. I'm going to do
Mhm.
this and that and the third," whether it be
Alone. Yep.
right alone, right? I don't think we say, "Well, hey, ma'am, make sure you understand that when you have this kid, they're going to miss their dad,
Yeah.
or they're gonna want a father figure in the house, so think about
Mhm.
that before do this thing." We don't typically do
Mhm.
that, so I wanna, at
Right.
the very least, give Cam this same grace. Now, I don't know what his relationships with his baby mothers are. I don't know what his relationships with his kids are. We can only go on face value, and the fact that he wants more kids leads you to believe, to him, everything is kosher. We won't
Yeah.
know until the kids get older and they start to develop whatever the case may be. I can only assume, me personally, getting pulled in 8 different directions would take a toll on me.
Across three different households.
Right,
It's
right. That
like,
would take a toll on me. But again, I'm
yeah.
not Cam Newton. I don't have millions of dollars. So, take that for what it is.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me is I think they're giving money a lot of credit. And don't get me wrong, money does make things easier, but to your point, these kids, a lot of kids, they don't remember, what you bought them. You bought them, a designer this or a designer that. They remember,
Mhm.
you showing up
Or not.
and are not. And I think his outlook is pretty cavalier to think that the most thing similar in vein to like Nick Cannon. It's like, well, I have the money to provide for all these things. It's like, yeah, financially, but what about the emotional provision, the emotional
Well,
support,
so
the
and they're in weird positions. They are not the norm. Cam Newton and Nick Cannon are
yeah.
not the norm. What I mean by and neither
Not from the money aspect, but I know that there are a lot of people who got a bunch of kids by different baby mamas that are out there
and
bipping
don't have
bopping
$1,000,000.
around who don't have this money, but they still out here doing it. A lot.
Right. But specifically to Cam and Nick Cannon, I
Hmm.
think I'm speculating
Hmm.
that the women that they have chosen to have these children with, they Cam and Nick say, "You know what it is."
I think the first ones probably didn't, but any subsequent ones after knew what the game
Right.
was.
So you take that and you add it to their not excuse, but their logic behind having all these kids was, well, she's okay with it. She understands the game. She's well taken care of. I don't know what kind of how they spending money or whatever the case may be,
Right.
but according to Cam and Nick, they're like, hey, two people came together and made a decision to have these kids. As long as we're on the same page, forget everything else, right?
Yeah.
Again, the problem with that is it ain't just about the parents. It's about
It's about
the
the kids.
kids.
That's a very selfish take that they have going
But
into this
people but
because they're adults and they've lived life, they've experienced,
right,
and they're looking at it from their perspective and maybe not necessarily down the road of how this could negatively impact the kids. They probably just think about the positive things. You have all this money, you can
right,
live here, you
right,
have this, you have that, but maybe not necessarily taking into account some of the more emotional things behind it.
right, and that's becoming and that's we are discovering, with our generation and our
Mhm.
generation behind us, we are now discovering that that time is important. When
Yes.
in the past, 40s, 50s, 60s, it was all but understood that the man makes the money, the wife take care of the home.
Take care of the kids.
So
Yes.
if the husband's out working double shifts, triple shifts, whatever he's got to do to support the family, that's his job. Don't ask me for no moral support. Don't ask me for no no love and nurturing. That ain't my
Right.
responsibility per this arrangement. The nurturing, the loving, the support, the caring, the boo-boos, the band-aids, that's mom's job. My
Mhm.
job is to feed you, clothe you, make sure you got a roof over your head. Now
Right.
we're starting to split away from that. Well, not split away from that. We're starting to adopt a different nuclear family to where
Mhm.
the husband and the wife or the partners are sharing a lot of responsibilities to where women are out in the workforce and now the husbands are, doing the soccer mom thing and the bus
Mhm.
schedules and picking up and taking, we're starting to
Mhm.
adopt that. So now we're looking at some of these folks that are kind of stuck in the old ways,
Mhm.
and we're like, hey, y'all need to catch up because studies
Yeah.
have shown kids are growing up and yada, yada, yada. But it's taken a while for some of us to kind of evolve and adapt. Right. And that's for
Yeah.
men and for women, because again, I don't want to call it is selfish, but it's not necessarily detrimental. It's not automatically detrimental for a kid to grow up in a single parent household, for whatever reasons. I'm not gonna go as far as
Yeah.
to say that. I grew up in
Right.
I grew up in a two-parent household. That's what I saw. That's what I want to
Mhm.
emulate. I've got a bunch of friends. I've got a lot of people that I know that grew up in single parent households. They grew up, got married, have kids, awesome families, right? So I
Mhm.
don't necessarily want to automatically, unequivocally, one for one equate that if you grew up in a single parent household because you were
Right.
you whatever, the kids are automatically gonna fail, right? But
Right.
we are starting to discover that kids are starting to have those core memories, and those core memories do not revolve around money. They revolve around
Right.
everything else.
Right. And it's one of those things where kids are much more emotionally intelligent than we were when we were kids, maybe not more, but they seem to be able to express it more, and they have parents who are more willing to receive it. So it's a different type of concept when it comes to that and how we navigate. And we're the adults now, and so we have that mindset as well, to be mindful of those kinds of things.
Right, because we're
And
going to
I
therapy and we are
right,
stepping outside the norms. We are
we have the language
right,
now
right.
to put to these things, and so I think it's truly what you said is going to come. You know how this affects them. When they're older,
And
and
are you
that's really
okay
the
with that?
unfortunate.
And are
Yeah,
you okay
and
with
that's the
that?
thing. If you're okay with that, because some kids can process it one way and it's positive, or hey, that's just our family, or some some of the kids can process it in a negative way, and it could cause issues for them,
And
and it's one of those things where
it may not even cause issues. It may be a let's just flesh this out, right?
mhm.
Cam Newton's one of his kids says, "Yeah, that's cool. I was able to have a car and pretty much all my financial issues, there were no issue.
I didn't have to worry about money. Yeah, I didn't have to worry
I
about
didn't
money.
worry about money. But what
Hmm.
I remember was da 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 dot. And
Hmm.
is again, is does Cam say, "Oh man, looking back, I do have some regrets," or is he gonna push back on his own child and be like, "Yo, why are you tripping? When I gave you
I gave you
everything, I gave
everything.
you everything you can ask for, right? Are you? Is he
Yeah,
okay with that conversation if it comes up?" I
yeah.
wouldn't be okay with that conversation if I, quote
Mm-mm.
unquote, worked hard and provided a roof and whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. And I'm sitting with my kid in therapy and they bawl and crying their eyes out. It's like, why didn't you come to my football games? I'm gonna be like,
You didn't come to my
right,
fifth grade play.
my heart is gonna be broken, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's me. Maybe Cam
Yeah.
again, he's one, and Nick for to an extent, since this lady talked to both of them around the same window. Both of them kind
Hmm.
of had the same ideas to where it's like, I'm the man, I'm making the money, I provide for my kids and my family. Shut your face.
Yeah.
If that's going to
Yeah.
work going forward, we don't know.
Right. And the fact that he wants more and not necessarily with the girl that he's with
See, and
is that's kind of stuck out to me, because that was like, that's giving a little narcissist. That's
well,
giving a little,
and not just
I'm
that,
not sure I care about this.
and then
This
more,
is just what I want.
but then more importantly, how are the women okay with that?
Right?
For Cam and Nick to be on these shows and saying, "Hey, I'm out here, right?
Hmm.
Basically, I'm out here. I do what I want." And with no any sort of insight, input, emotional concern for what you
Right.
got going on, just
Right.
collect these checks and shut up. How that wouldn't
Right.
make me feel too hot as a
No.
woman. And there are a
Mm-mm.
lot of there are
And that's why this lady was like, no, I wouldn't do that. And I think that's why he got offended, because he was like, I'm providing the houses, the money, the cars,
right,
all this stuff.
right.
And you have the nerve to say that you wouldn't date me?
And
You
and
wouldn't date a man like me? And she was like, no.
And that's where that narcissistic stuff come in because again, if
Hmm.
I was, not to put myself in Cam and Nick's position, but if she would have said that and I'd be like, well, lucky for you, we're not together. So,
Right.
that's the end of
But yeah, but I think I
that.
think I think one of the things is that this is a very attractive woman. I think he was attracted to her, and
Yeah,
I think his feelings
sure,
got hurt,
sure, sure,
that somebody that he would
sure.
want to pursue, someone he could see himself with, saying, "Nah, I don't want you. I'm not touching you with a 10-foot
And
pole."
that's a possibility. But at the same time, I think more so like you mentioned, that narcissistic to where,
Yeah.
that 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 rejection, you know,
Hmm.
probably got him particularly in his feelings. If we're speculating, he could come say, I
Right.
wasn't thinking about there, but you could
Hmm.
tell he was kind of,
He was squirming in
yeah,
his chair a little
and
bit.
he was trying to lay it on, he's trying to lay on the
Yeah.
charm,
Yeah.
and
And
it
she
didn't,
wasn't
and
having
then
it.
she wasn't having it, and maybe he felt some kind of way, but you
Yeah.
know, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. He could have the best intentions with this attitude, but are you ready for the blowback if it
Yeah.
happens 20 years
Yeah.
from now? you dealing with some kid
All of these
in
8
therapy, right?
kids,
And
at
again,
least 8.
and I don't want to wish bad luck on the kids. I don't want to wish
Absolutely
bad
not.
luck on the
'Cause this is not the
mothers.
kid's fault.
Right,
Yeah,
right. So, it's just that's how they think. And it's just like, all right, recognize that these people out there exist and decide if you want to be in these people's orbit.
yeah.
And once, same thing like you mentioned with the doctor, if more women be like, nah, nigga, I ain't messing with nobody that's got 8 kids,
Nope.
he
8 kids and 3 baby mamas.
right, right,
It's one thing you got a bunch of kids, but you got 3 different baby mamas
right.
that is in this mix.
I,
That's a lot.
we need
That's
more.
a
We
lot.
need these cats, these people with these attitudes.
Yeah,
There need to be more rejection to where maybe they'll be like, all right, well, this ain't working. Let me evolve and actually be, the type of person that these people will be attracted to. But right now, it's working for them. So it's just like,
yeah.
how can you tell them the it ain't broke, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
broke,
And
you
when
know.
they see people like Cam, like Nick, like Future, they're modeling themselves after that. And I mean, this is already bad
Mhm.
to be modeling after this, but then you're modeling after it.
And
I
you ain't
think they
got the
said
money.
Cam is worth I think it said Cam is worth 75
Right.
million. Bro, you don't even have 75,000. You don't have a 401k.
Right.
It's those type of things where you're trying to emulate people who you admire or look up to, and it's like you don't have the basic necessities to even do this life,
Which is
and then
why
you're out here on the internet, on podcasts, on Twitter, typing these think pieces, and this is what a real man
so
does, blah
which
blah
is
blah, and
why
that ain't you.
which is why I've always said it's never going to happen, but I always say it. When these couples have these kids and they, for whatever reason, decide to split up, these mothers need to be like, take these damn kids. You got full custody.
I'm
I'll
giving you
pay
full
I'll pay
custody.
child support. I'll come visit on the weekends. I bet if more women did that and more of these dudes had to sit around and juggle a household, things would change quick. I mean quick.
Did you remember the story of that basically happening? So a girl got pregnant. She was going to get an abortion. She didn't want to,
Mhm,
and she didn't want to have a kid.
mhm,
And the guy was like, "No, no, no, don't. I'll take the kid.
mhm,
I'll pay for. I'll take care of it. Blah blah blah." And then he was like, she had the baby. He was like, "Do you want to see him?" She was like, "Nope, I'm good."
mhm,
She not only paid the child support, but she paid child support plus I think like 25%.
mhm,
And then he went to the courts, after the kid was maybe 18 months, trying to force her
mhm.
to be a co-parent.
Nope.
And she was like, "No,
Nope.
I told you that I did not want." He was like, "You don't want to. What if he comes to you?" And she was like, "I didn't sign
That
the
ain't
birth
my
certificate.
problem,
I
Jack.
told you none of this is mine. And not only am I paying my child support on time, but I'm paying more than my child support on time. And now you dragging me into court trying to force me to be a parent when I told you I didn't want to be one. And you were like, oh, well, I'll do it. I'll take care of it." And I think part of that is he thought she'd eventually soften up. And
Or
the second part is he didn't realize it was going to be this
that's what
hard.
I was gonna say. Reality hit him like a ton of bricks.
Yep. She
So
don't want to see him. She don't want visitation because she didn't want visitation or anything. And he was like trying to force her to do visitation or whatever. He was like, "I just need a break. I'm having to do this by
mhm,
myself. I
mhm.
have to have these car seats. I
Yeah,
have to go
buddy.
here, I go
Yeah,
there."
buddy.
And she's like, "That's why I didn't want it.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want the baby.
Or
And we had a remedy for that. And you forced me, begged me to have it. And I gave you exactly what you asked for. So don't come over here."
if more women did that, I'm pretty sure things would change quick, fast, in a hurry.
Yeah.
But of course, society would not let a mother.
They will frown.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but
And talk so much trash about
but
her.
things got
So
to happen. Somebody's got to make the move
she
because.
started it and she was like, "I started the revolution. Y'all just stop picking it up."
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. That's gonna wrap it up for Further Culture. Let's head on over into the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
Yep. So I actually did this. I try not to recommend things that I haven't tried, or I just said, "Oh,
Mhm.
that's a good idea." I actually try the things that I'm suggesting because I don't want to be like some of these people that are suggesting these things and don't have any personal things. So
Mm.
I was like I do, looking for stories for, the show. And I stumbled upon this website called missingmoney.com. And basically, what it is, uh, each state has a treasurer and they have a treasurer's office. And for whatever reason, there is money that is returned back to the state that is quite possibly could be in your name for whatever reason. It could be um, taxes owed to you. It could be, a rebate or something, a check that was sent to you and got returned to sender, and whatever the case may be. So there's all this money sitting around in all these different states, and you could have some money sitting out there for you. So I stumbled upon this website and I was like, let me try it. So I put in my last name, put in my first name, and I searched through all of the states. I searched
Mhm.
by all of the states that I've lived at longer than like a year or two. So,
Mhm.
I've lived in Georgia, I've lived in Maryland, I went to college in Tennessee, I'm born and raised in Indiana, I graduated from high school in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
So I put in my first last name, Wisconsin. Put in my first and try to see if there's a match. Put in my first and last name in Indiana, did it in Maryland, did it in Georgia, did it in Tennessee. And then lo and behold, I had like $50 sitting in Tennessee that was essentially my money. So then I was like,
Mhm.
all right, well, let me see if I can get it. So I submitted the information. I haven't gotten the money yet, but I've
Mhm.
actually went through the process, and of course, they need to prove who you
Who
are.
you are.
So you have to upload documents stating, driver's license, social security card, whatever the case may be. You have to prove your current address. So, a statement to the house, utilities, whatever the case may be. The hardest part was finding proof of you living in the state at the time that money was owed to you. So I had to do some digging. I had to be creative and do some digging, and found, I
Mhm.
think, my credit report had me listed at that address to where the money that I was owed was there. So I screenshotted that, uploaded it. So now I'm waiting on the money coming back. And so the reason why I'm suggesting this is especially for people who have lived in multiple states. If you've been in Georgia your whole life, you just do it one time and everything
Mhm.
related to that. But if you live in multiple states, there are things like, for instance, the way I think this $50 is owed to me was when I went to college. They had us pay, if I recall, they had us pay a $50 deposit to get a P.O. box at the college. So when people sent me mail, they sent it to the P.O. box. When I graduated, I think they're supposed to give me that deposit back. And I don't think they did. So they sent it to the Tennessee treasurer. And that's how that money is sitting there with my address at the time of being in college. So filled out all the information, uploaded all the documents. Now I'm just waiting on my money. So my hookup for the week is, if you're looking for some extra money, it could be $25. It could be as much as $5,000, whether it be from a security deposit that you didn't get back, a tax rebate, or whatever the case may be. That money's just sitting
Mhm.
there in your name. So go to missingmoney.com, search per state for your name, every state you've lived in. There may be some money sitting out there for you.
And I'll do you one better. I did this a while back. Georgia has one specifically for Georgia,
Hmm.
and you search by city,
Okay.
and it's gaclaims.unclaimedproperty.com. If you just go to I think it's through the Department of Revenue.
It's either revenue or
Um,
treasury.
yeah, and you can check your Georgia money there as well.
Yep.
So yeah, uh, listen, gas is high,
Who's gonna say no to
groceries
free
is
money?
high.
Ain't nobody gonna say no to free money. Anybody I
Pick
know.
up your money. Yeah, it's your money. It's owed to you. So definitely get your money. With that, we are gonna wrap up the show for this week. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva as well on all of the social media and internet. Again, thank you for tuning in to our show. You can definitely connect, comment, share, and support our show by going over to snobboiscast.com to get all the details. Also, as I said at the top of the show, You can head on over to podcast.apple.com to listen, rate, and review us as well. With that being said, we're going to wrap up for the show for this week. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.